we would leave. And the opposite happened. More people kept moving in and moving in. The Intifada took many lives, and we had to adjust to that. Our children grew up hardened, if you will. A teacher doesn't come back the next day. The little boy you sit next to in shul isn't there anymore. Parents. Too many funerals. I mentioned my oldest daughter was 8 back then. She looked up at me from playing with her Barbies and asked, Abba, are you going to die today? You have to understand, I was dealing with the terrorist attacks pretty much every day in the beginning. At least 1 to 2 shootings a day. I remember turning to my son, my oldest one then, in different periods, and to tell him of a friend's, his funeral. And the last one during the yeshiva, when the 8 kids were shot. So I wake up my son in the morning and I said, listen, Yochai. I said, I have to tell you something. And he just looked at me and said, which one? But I look into their eyes, and despite all of that, and yes, trauma and whatever, they're strong. And despite all that trauma that they threw at us, we grew stronger. We're not going to be thrown out. We're not going to bend. We're going to act. The whole point of coming here together today is, I've been to LA a few times, I spoke about the situation, so let's go on giving a whole background summary. If you all want, we can get into that a little later. I want to talk about where do we go and what do we do. Learning from history, so it doesn't repeat itself. And mind you, it was no coincidence. This last week's Parsha, what did we read? 2 things that really, that made me into the security officer, that I became. Lo ta'amod al dam ve'echa. You should not stand idly by your brother's blood. And v'ahavta l'recha kamocha. And you have to love your brother as yourself. I spoke in shul, and those are the concepts, mind you. That's what makes a security chief, a security worker, an officer, whatever you want to call them. That's what makes them who they are. Not to stand quietly by. And even though it was mentioning about whether you should go out and endanger yourself, v'ahavta kamocha, to love your brother as yourself. If you're in trouble, you want someone to come there. You want someone to endanger himself even to come and help you. You expect that. You want that for your children. You want that for yourself. You want to be able to have that. What does that mean? In order for that to be, you have to be ready to do something also. You have to be ready to do the same thing, that same mesirut nefesh, that same dedication. Because that's the way it works. The Intifada brought with it a new technology, a new knowledge that was given to the world. The first responders, the civilian first responders. Whenever you're hearing about it now in America, everyone, first responder. Big hype, right? Media, first responder after 9/11, all of a sudden, that's the word. It all started with a bunch of Jews. And we learned simply that it was up to us to go out first, to act, that we were the ones who were able to save lives first. It's amazing. A few Jews get together and we change the world. In the near future, things are going to be changing in Israel. You already see, obviously we're dealing with the Iran effect. We're having more Scuds coming into the Hezbollah and Lebanon and Hamas. And we know that things are going to once again start up in Yudah and Shomron and Judea and Samaria. We can change things. We can you don't wait for people to be dead on the streets, for buses to be blowing up, to act. The whole concept is to prevent that. You go out of the street, you want to know that you're safe. You're walking, you leave your house. What do? You leave your house wide open? I don't know, maybe it's that safe here. A lot of people might close their door, lock your door. You do things to prevent things from happening. We as a Jewish people have to act that way, all together. We have one Israel. One Israel. When do we act? It's been my mission, if you will, for the past couple of years to bring Jews together in that, in action, to make action, to put them together, because we work with one another. I see the results of that. I see the results of people say, here's equipment. I see the lives that have been saved by it. Throughout my own experiences, when I've been giving equipment, I've had to go into terrorist acts and respond and fire back and so on, and thank God, had the ability actually to take people back to their homes and save lives, thank God. I've seen that result due to people working with me, and whether it was supplying me with equipment or other things, it's a win-win situation. And that's what I want to do tonight. I speak a lot, and I admit, and you forgive me if I get personal in the way I speak at times, I'm tired of just talking. I'm tired of just talking and asking and saying to people, it's time for action, because right now you see the world, what's happening, how they're building up against us, everywhere. I'm not paranoid. I look at the situation on the ground. I guess my new motto is, one, no more Jewish victims. No more. I've had enough. And I decided to build an army. That army is Achdut. That is unity. That army is for everyone here taking part in what happens over there, joining forces. A person responds to a dangerous situation. The Torah discusses, so when do you? Not, do you put yourself in danger? There are people out there who are going to put themselves in danger. They're going to run into fire. They're going to run into bullets. They'll run into anything. Because that's what they expect someone to do for them. I need everyone here to be part of that. I need you to gain also from their strength, mind you. That when you hear of someone of a Jewish life saved, not a victim, that you stand up and say, I was part of that. I helped save that person, because bringing a person back alive to their family, besides the mitzvah, is a feeling you can't imagine. And you have to be part of it. Toughness. Not just thinking, not saying, I'm with you. That time period's over. It's over. Israel has been for years been the playground of the Jewish people. We take it for granted. Israel, we're taking it for granted that it exists. We get on the flight, we land, we go to the Kotel. Oh, wonderful, I'm having a spiritual experience. I'm there, I'm reconnecting.
Mazel tov.
I met Mazel Tov. There are people out there who are working to enable that experience for Jews around the world. And you know what? It's time for the Jews to be involved in it. I know everyone, there's donations and there's this, whatever. That's why I say I'm looking to build an army. People who want to fight back. I'm not talking about militants and starting some sort of weird army that's going to go. I'm talking simply about the people joining those guys, those civilians, who are going to run and take care of things. That's it in a nutshell. And it goes beyond that. Because once you become part of that army, you have an obligation. And that obligation is that when you come over to see that, to be part, to meet that team, whether it be a medical response team, a tactical response team, or the security chief who's got to run all over. You will feel 10 feet tall. You'll get to that strength. You know the way you all feel when you hear of something good in Israel, mind you, of the IDF, of something. Even when you watch a politician, whether his tongue is forked or not, when he speaks strong and says we will not give up on our right, come on, everyone feels like this. I give you that opportunity. Not to feel it for a minute, not to feel it for 5 minutes, but you're going to walk around always knowing that it's part, because we're there. And then when you come over and you want to see and say, hey, I'm part of this team, come there, you're going to walk like this, and you're going to feel the people there connect to you. And it will feel a bond, it will make a bond that doesn't just go through you, but through your children and your grandchildren. When they see that, when they see that we're part of that too, it's going to give them that strength. I'll answer questions about the situation, about what's going on. Like I said, I speak a lot. I've been traveling a lot, more than I wanted to. And that's why I'm not drawing this out into an hour speech about whatever in Zionism and so on, because the whole simple fact is that you're all here. I know it's a choir. So I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. When we take a break, you're going to see projects that are over there. One of the things that I'm working on is a simple response package for one of the teams. And it takes money. As hard as it is for me to say that, that's what it takes. It takes money to simply buy the equipment. I want to leave here this evening with the ability to equip one of these teams with a basic response package, with the communications, the lighting, and something that they need that will help them against the terrorist act. And terrorist acts still happen. I know the media doesn't report it. We'll get into that a little later, but it still happens. I want all of you to say, I belong to that team. And then when you come over to Israel, you call me up and say, hey, can I meet the guys? And you suffer my crazy driving in a Jeep to get there. But you see it. And that's what has to be done. I want to build an army of 1,000 people. And God willing, I really believe it. We can change things. We can change things. So think before we get into the questions. Think about what you want someone to do for you. Think if you're in a situation, if you want someone to come out for you. Because we'll be there. But we want you to come out for us also. Because we're only one people. I work with the organization One Israel Fund, and one of the things that keeps that is that One Israel. And like I said, this is not a private militia. Everything I spoke about is coordinated with the IDF, with regional security. Everything is very official, which even makes it a larger family. Let's make it happen. Now I'll be in touch with you. I want it to happen tonight.
Mark, if you receive a significant contribution, donations to your One Israel Fund, what would that money do for you protecting the outlying areas, like the one you told me about north of Jericho?
Yeah.
What was that money, how did you spend that money to protect people?
It all depends, and I'll just to expand upon the projects that we were talking about so you understand what we're saying. One of the projects I was involved with was setting up a perimeter system. A small community north of Jericho, only about 30 families, mind you, but and the Arabs started coming in closer and would actually started pelting their perimeter lights, and these are signs that something is going to happen. Someone gave a very significant donation, and we were able to set up a perimeter system. 2 cameras. I won't get into the details, but 2 very special cameras, and today the Arabs don't even come close. Now, it gets much better than that. I thought that was the purpose. But here's a bit of that result, I said, when Jews work together. Not only did they stop them from coming there, but there was a new Arab army base set up by U.S. aid and Lieutenant General Keith Dayton. And now we're able to see that and get a lot of intelligence on it that the IDF never had. It doesn't stop there. Because the people feel even safer, they started building their homes. Not the caravans, but started building and expanding. And that's the return. Jews all of a sudden feeling safe enough to build on their land. And that happens because we work together in unity, in a place where you would never imagine. It all depends what the donations are, obviously. My realm is security. And right now, one of the focus of what we're trying to do is on these response teams, these guys who have to go out.
What are they responding to? A terrorist act?
They're responding to every possible thing, not just terrorism. They're responding to, in America they call them CERT teams, Community Emergency Response Teams. They respond to terrorism. They respond to emergency medical situations, even earthquakes, if you will. But their first and most training goes to counterterrorism, because that's our biggest problem that we have to deal with. Lately, thank God, it's slowed down, but we know what's coming. And like I said, I prefer to learn from history instead of repeating it. Or at least changing the way I have to repeat it, let's say that. And it's an amazing thing to see, like I said, the response. We had a few months ago, there was an attack, a terrorist attack outside of Shiloh, after the last time I was here. Guy got wounded, and a medic responded. One problem, he didn't have the proper equipment. I got really angry at that situation. I put out a call, and I put together a kit, a certain emergency medical response kit, a special one suited for our situations. Until today, we've brought in 30 of these special equips and changed the level of emergency medical response in all of Yudan Shomron. Changed it. Now we can treat people better. Simply, that's the way it is. It didn't wait for the next situation to occur. And that's what we're doing here today. Putting you together with those guys. Now, a bit about the situation. What's going on? First of all, Yudan Shomron, a thing that people a lot of times forget. You hear this, we call it the West Bank, whatever. What is this place? Bunch of crazy Jews living there. Okay, maybe I'm crazy. Look at my painting. Okay, definitely. Maybe I'm not a good example of someone living there. If we look at a map and we start mentioning names in the Torah that we read about, we go to shul, we hear Shechem, Nablus, we hear Bethel, we hear Ai, we hear Shiloh, we hear Hebron, we hear Arba, Bethlehem, Ephrata, Beersheba. Am I forgetting any? Must be.
Ariel.
Besides Yerushalayim. No, we do not hear Ariel.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. I'm talking about way back. And if we put a map behind me and I start putting dots on of the names I made, look at the map, go home and look at a map of Israel and find those places. Take a pencil and connect the dots. And you will be drawing a spine down the center of Israel. It's our heartland. They are the places that put us together. It's our heritage. And you hear about all this big fight right now about the heritage sites in Israel. You can hear that, right? That all of a sudden, Bibi, the government, they declared Marat Machpelah, the burial place of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, made a big problem all of a sudden.
They didn't have it on the list.
Well, it wasn't, but this became one of the big Jewish heritage. The Arabs figured, no, how can you say that's part of Jewish heritage? And whose heritage is it part of? The world, imagine a decision like this, and this goes to the White House. And they call it. George Mitchell says, what are you doing? We are growing. We've gone through ups and downs as a people. But we are growing. Except this time, it's going to take all of us to work together doing it. And a real effort. Like I said, the playground is closed for free entries. It's now time that we get together and rebuild it, and maintain it into a bigger, a better place. And we have to act. No more talking. Not just saying I'm praying for you. Now you got to pick up a shovel. Now you got to hand a light. Big party. Hamas is working to, you'll read in the newspaper about how the Palestinian Authority, and I really do not like to use the word Palestinian, we'll get into that in a minute, they finding explosives and all this and arms caches all throughout Judea and Samaria. What good people! They're really working for peace. It's our partner. No. The Palestinian Authority under the head of Mahmoud Abbas, and Salam Fayyad are terrified that Hamas is going to pull a Gaza on them. And so they're going and looking for these arms and trying to do whatever they can, not to help us out, but to save themselves. And the possibility of a Hamas takeover is very real. Very real. And, the one thing I appreciate about Hamas and respect about them, they're not lying. They say, we want to throw you out. And I respect that. Not like the PAO with this and so. So we know where they're going with that. I don't like using the word Palestinian simply because it's inaccurate. And I think that ignorance has been one of the worst, most damaging aspects, or most damaging weapons, in a sense, that's happened to our people. The Palestinian people. When did that come about? People forget history. And I'm just saying, I'm not trying to convince anyone politically. Just history. Before 1948, everyone there,
Arabs.
well, everyone living there was called Palestinians. Arabs,
Right.
Jews, didn't matter. You were Palestinian.
Right.
We read the Palestinian Post, the Palestine Post. We went to the Palestine Brigade, both Jews and Arabs. In fact, if we look back to the history, that region was called Palestine,
Right.
Palestina. Back from the days of the old Roman boss, Hadrian. It was done to try to break the Jewish spirit and to rename the area from Judea and Israel, what it was called then, something else. The Arabs like to celebrate on Independence Day, they call it Nakba, the catastrophe. What they forget to tell you all about is, in fact, you go to all the universities, the Arab refugees and this, and the Jewish army came in and captured. They forget to tell you that there was also another thing going around in Arabic called Feza, which meant terror. You see, the Arabs back then in all the little communities were told by all the other surrounding Arab armies, do whatever you can to the Jews. We're coming in, we're coming to save you. And so they started. They started doing whatever reign of possible terror they could, while the other surrounding Arab armies started attacking it, except one thing that happened. You know, we won. I think they should change the name of Nakba or catastrophe to simply the Jews won. That's it. Deal with it. You started a war, we finished it. But that wasn't enough for them, right? They started another war and another war, and thank God we finished it. No more land for peace, no nothing. Peace for peace. And my own personal opinion is one state. That's it. I need another Arab state. You want to live in peace? Live in peace. Quiet. Another example of Arab PR. If you'll read sometimes papers now, some of them are coming out. You're seeing that the PA is beginning to discuss the one-state solution. We're going to take over by majority. One state. I welcome that. You see, what they don't say is that, and again, I'm not trying to be derogatory to the Arabs, but if we look throughout the history, every time that there's been a war, they've been on their way to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and they're conquering it already, and the armies are marching down on Tveria. Really doesn't happen. It's just the way Arab society works. And again, I'm not being derogatory. It's since time immemorial. It's a different culture, and we have to respect that. What's going on really behind all these things? And I have a very good relationship with a lot of my Arab neighbors. And they say, it was better for us before Oslo. We could go to Tel Aviv, no one stopped us. There was security, absolutely. And there were roadblocks here and there. They said we didn't pay taxes. And millions of dollars came into Yehuda and Shomron from Israeli tourism every weekend. We don't have that anymore. And they want that again. They want that freedom. So it's a little different the way things get reported in the paper. Sure, there's the problem, the demographic problem. They say is 60%, only 60% Jewish majority. Well, you know what? I'd rather deal with that problem than losing my people. The biggest danger we face today as Jews, all over, is the division of our land. And this division that we do have in our people. So I'd rather deal with bringing another 1 million Jews over to Israel, building the economy even stronger, and changing it that way. Maybe I'm being naive, but I really believe we can do it. And change things.
Why is the PR from Israel so
You know, that is one of the great mysteries
I-
of the word. I think I have, you know what,
Why don't we hear people like
my limited
you
opinion,
to instead of preaching to the choir, to preach outside the choir?
well, first of all, we have a budget, and this is serious, this is a fact, that the budget of the PR is less, you know what a Preli is? It's a fruit yogurt. It's less than the budget of the PR for this yogurt. Israel's
But that's
also
misguided proportion.
sure, but we have everyone and their mother comes and tells a different story also when we come out. You know, it's a problem.
But I would, in Israel's defense, even though perhaps they should be investing more, American newspapers and American outlets don't want, and European outlets of course, don't want to hear another side. There's tremendous bias against Israel. The real question is, why is there so much hate?
No, that's
That is the question.
You
know?
right. Well, that since history, but it's interesting. But think about what you're saying now. There's more hatred now. It's cropping up more now
Yes.
than ever before. Why is that? You ever think why Dafka now?
Why?
Because we're so much more divided and showing so much more weakness now. For the first time since Israel came about, we're backing down, we're making compromises, we're doing this, and it's like a dog, you know.
They smell blood in the water.
Well, exactly. What happens when a dog senses fear, then he'll chase you, he'll attack you. This is what's happening now. In fact, world terrorism, and this is a fact, on a graph. 1993, some very significant things happened. 93, I believe so.
And a big nut car.
But Oslo started in 93. What else happened in 1993? The first bombing of the World Trade Center. First. As Israel counter-terror efforts, both diplomatic and operational, went down to provide a different field, or however you want this process, and the Oslo process, Islamic terrorism in the world went up. As Israel lessened its fight against terrorism, terrorism grew. As terrorism grew, so did the hatred towards Israel. Simple fact is, when we don't act strong, we see more hatred.
When we lost our identity.
That is the key.
It's all
That-
spiritual.
Oh, you'll get no argument from me on that side. But that's one aspect of it. It's definitely that. It's, we were talking today. There was I was at the Israel
Festival.
Right, the festival. I was with Moshe, and there was the Americans for Peace Now over there. And what you hear from all of these people, they say, you know what, we need a two-state solution. Why? What's their excuse? Come on, this is interaction.
We have to be nice.
No. Well, what's their logic behind it?
Demographic.
We have to remain a Jew, and this is what they say. We need to remain a Jewish state.
And keep democracy.
Well, before that, it's always we have to remain a Jewish state. They are not interested in a Jewish state. Peace Now, B'Tselem, and all these other organizations. Jewish state does not interest them. If they're supposed to create, what's peace? Peace is getting along with one another, right? If they're supposed to promote peace, they should be promoting peaceful relations between Jews and Arabs. This they do not do. What they do is create violence between Jews and Arabs. They instigate, they provoke.
How do they provoke it?
Oh, it's brilliant. First of all, they'll come over and they'll say, you know what? You go do this. We're going to help you. We're going to supply you. They supply them with money. They supply check out every Friday what's going on right now around certain villages and Elim. You name it. But the whole concept is they're fighting, saying we're going to get rid of those people for you. And then when they say those people, they're talking about people like me, my neighbors and friends, whatever, Jews who simply believe that we have a right to live in our homeland. They are racists.
Yeah.
They're racist. Peace Now, but they're not interested in peace. They want to say, okay, you Arabs over there, and we Jews over here. Is that peace? Is that
but they're
mankind?
responding to the Arabs who are saying we need complete separation, that's all absurd.
Well, exactly.
Who wants a neighbor?
I'm not responding to that. First of all, a lot of the Arabs do not say that. And once you get really into the villages, the Arabs simply know that until Israel came into that piece of land, it was dormant.
Exactly.
It was dormant. And why do you think all the Arabs started coming to Israel? If we look at the population-wise, the Jews started coming, mind you, small numbers, but we made things bloom.
Right.
And its simple fact is, you want to get spiritual? It's simple fact. When the connection of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael comes about, that's when things work. The Parsha, this week's Parsha, we got right into that. That's when the Arabs started growing there. And the Arabs know it. They really do.
So this, I don't know if it's a recommendation or a response. My question is, who originally started saying there has to be the separation? Because if you're just a local Arab guy,
in Islam, Arabs cannot live under a foreign rule. It is what's the word?
Haram.
It's a religious edict in a sense. That's where it comes from. It cannot be. Well, Gaddafi said it great today. Also, he said he doesn't have a problem with Jews. He has a problem with Zionism. He said that. That's today's paper. The simple fact is that they cannot live like that. I don't have a problem. If they don't want to live there, leave.
No, it's Dar al-Islam. They once owned the land, so they can't go back.
They know exactly who owned the
Well, they
land.
say under the Turkish, the Ottomans,
Well, under the Turkish Ottomans, that was all right.
Muslims. I know, but so now that it's not, now it's in Jewish hands, It once was belonged to Muslim hands, so it has to go back to Muslim
Well,
hands.
they'll have, I mean,
They'll
a
never
million
be
and one
satisfied.
excuses, but
Dar al-Islam.
the simple
It's-
fact
it's
is
in the
that
Quran.
we're there. And we're going to
Just an
stay.
absurdity keeps on
It
perpetuating
is
itself.
such an absurdity to
And
live,
the
to live in.
American, the American government and so forth is also in support of this two-state solution.
Well, sure, you have to, if there's, I mean, I don't know, it's not necessarily the time for discussion about that now, but I understand their thinking, I understand their back, I understand their hatred, I understand why they're coming out against us, and honestly, I think that everything will backfire. But the situation is before, and and like you mentioned, a few years back, this reality didn't exist because we were strong. We have to build that strength again.
Yeah,
We
so-
build that strength by being together. I mean, obviously, we can expand and expound upon it for hours and how and so on. But one of those ways is simply by being strong. Right now, Judea and Samaria is in the sights of these people. They want to rip out our heart. When you rip out the heart, the body dies. And in this case, it'll be both spiritually and physically. And that's why we have to start. We have to start right here. Right here.
So what are the projects in the menu that basically...
The projects that I brought with me tonight are very simple. First one is called a basic response package. Basic response package includes communications equipment, professional tactical lights, and searchlights meant for the first response teams. Each package like this costs $3,600 for each team, that is. There's an emergency response package, what I spoke about. We're including a defibrillator light. It's called advanced life-saving, but this is at doctor's level. It includes medicines for doctors that, God willing, when a doctor arrives, he has the tools of the trade, and that's also $3,600. And then there's also the response kit for the security chiefs. The security chiefs are the ones who get the call and show up first, at least with minimal first aid. And I have to equip 100 of these guys right now, and that's at $600 a pop. What I would like to do first here tonight is a basic response package for one of the teams. I want to connect all of you with at least 12 guys in one yeshuv. That's what I want. That's it in a nutshell. I have plenty of projects. I have pages of projects. I want to try to remain focused on that little project. At least that. I want to make that happen and start. A lot of times when I've been speaking on different things, and I mentioned the larger ones and the perimeter defense systems, and I mean, like I said, I have books and I have over 100 yeshuvim that I have to worry about and work with. I'm proud of that. But we have to start somewhere. And I am so proud of what we've accomplished in the past 2 years. We've caught over 6 terrorists in the last 2 years. Now, it might not sound like like a big number. But can you imagine if these terrorists gotten into the communities, how many deaths that would have been? Well, we stopped it. Thank God. That is something.
Mark, you have to have one more project to your list.
Which one?
It is getting you in front of larger audiences. There has to be some groundswell here to get you in.
I don't know if I'm the person, honestly. I would.
No, I mean, you don't have to do it. We have to do it.
Well-
We have to put together infrastructure where you can come and
Right,
speak
but I
to
see-
larger people.
exactly, but
Because
that-
it's not going to happen from a room full of 10 people.
But
I
it
don't know.
starts. But it
All right,
starts.
fine.
You imagine.
I'm giving you a sixth of my bank account today. I have $600 in my bank account. I'm giving you $100. That's like $1,000 to anybody else in the room. So I'm giving you the maximum I can.
The inyan is that it starts. It starts in every place. Children have to take their first step.
Do all these outlying Yeshuvim have weapons to protect themselves?
Well, everyone has given basic things from the army, whether it's usually a weapon, and there's a lot of things that are old. The old vests, the old bulletproof vests, we've been replacing them with new ones that people can actually use. Like I said, I have a lot of projects. I prefer not to get into all of them at this point. You can go onto the One Israel Fund website or be in touch with me. And I will tell you all about everything that we do. Because it's a lot, and it's a lot to be proud of. We're given the basics, but that's where the thing is working together. That's why I want to start this army. And whatever name it's given, but people will know about it. Huh? Achdut is the whole thing. That's the point of it.
Revut. Basically, we're not allowed to, it's us who derives for us to sit here while our fellow brethren are being blown up in our land.
We have to avoid that. No, it's nothing under that. Obviously, you know what?
For us to
What's
enjoy
amazing, Jews are
without
wonderful.
either going there and struggling with you or giving you every maximum thing we can
It's
do.
amazing, Jews respond. They do respond when they see the pictures, these horrible pictures and so on. But like I said, it was my job to avoid that. I see a danger far away, I have to go address that over there before it happens. I take a child and I teach him how to cross a street. I don't send them off. In this day and age of health, right? And I guess I'm not the perfect example, but in this day and age when we're supposed to address our health, we try to eat properly. Try to watch our fat intake. Make sure we don't get too high cholesterol. I'm offering you tofu.
I don't like tofu.
Seitan or any of those.
Depends how you make it.
I'm offering you a lean steak.
I do like it.
I like steak too. I'm offering you a healthy body.
How do you justify the right-wing government, even today, saying we're in favor of a two-state solution?
Because they're politicians and I don't even justify what they say.
They're saying it every day.
I agree with the two-state solution. There we have Jordan and we have Israel.
They're not left with a right-wing government.
The politicians, but
say they are.
you know what, they change and they'll change and everything. You can't listen to anything that anyone's saying because what's happening is right now, you know, you go to the average Israeli really on the street and it's getting lower and lower. You know, you think that the left is not the majority. Believe it or not, it's not. But the media is still left like we were talking, and that's the message that they're putting out. But after, and it was very interesting, after the second Lebanese travesty that happened, people started thinking, wait a second. If we give up Yudan Shomron, they're going to start rocketing at us from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to really kill my real estate value. People started thinking, and they are thinking. And a lot of Israelis are not for giving up Yudan Shomron, because you know what? They saw that when we left Gaza, Israelis are very, very stubborn and arrogant people, and sometimes it really takes a smack on the head until you learn. And they got smacked by Gaza. We pulled out. We got rockets. They know what's going to happen the minute we pull out of Yudan Shomron, God forbid.
I'm curious, you know, Americans, the diaspora has always been very philanthropic towards Israel.
Mm-hmm.
But now that there's a new wealth emerging in Israel, I'm curious how philanthropic the Israeli people are.
The Israeli people there's a mindset that one has to understand. And living in a yeshuv, it's sort of like living here. I mean, I don't know whether in this neighborhood, in a lot of places where I travel, Sundays and different days, they knock on the door and so on. Israelis feed their own. When asking about the fence, it's very simple. They send their children. You want
Is that an excuse?
That's
an
sad.
excuse?
No, is that an excuse for not donating?
Yeah.
Oh no, people do what they can, absolutely. But when someone asks and say, "Oh, come help this," or my son's about to go into the army in another year.
But I'm not talking, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, but the Israelis, the new companies and everything, it's business. It goes. Jews are Jews all over the world, and they're no different in Israel.
What does that mean?
Some give, some don't.
Well, Jews are thank God. I mean, we have in terms of charity, we're up there, and that's not it's all over.
I mean, I raised money for Israel for different causes, and the Israeli community, it's a slow transition for them, and it requires a lot of education because they feel like they already gave. They were in the army.
Oh, that's the Israelis here. That's yeah.
And so I was curious how the Israelis are.
over in Israel. you
Yeah,
mean.
if they support you, and especially now
They
there's
support.
such new
The
wealth.
point is, what I'm doing here, and the reason I come here, is because my goal is to put people together. I'm not really a fundraiser. Never been good at it.
You could have fooled me.
I'm really, that's not this achdut, that's my goal. I'm very simple. I see results. The story that I referred to that, people have heard it before, I mentioned years ago, there was an attack outside of Shiloh in a place called Wadi Haramia. And my guy, I'd been a recipient of, an American guy brought me a sight for my rifle and said, I know what you do. And I took it and I said, guilt. I said, he felt guilty, so he's giving me whatever, classic Israeli. Arrogant, you name it. During that attack, because I had that piece of equipment, I was able to spot where the terrorist was firing and return fire. And each time I was able to return fire, I was able to take someone and put them behind a bulletproof van, mind you, that was being donated back then. People were, that campaign. It enabled me to do that a few times. Until the terrorist stopped. Whether it was my bullet or there's another guy who was firing. Only two of us were firing towards him. 10 people died that day. I don't remember how many were wounded. Over 12. You finish an attack, and all attacks, and especially when you manage to save people, and you feel very good. It's a very special feeling. And then that day I realized that it wasn't just mine. That the simple fact is because this guy was with me, that first of all I'm able to speak here today. That if I had that privilege, the zchut to bring people back to their families, he shared it with me. I mean, the constant thing that, I guess you want to talk about fundraising that everyone uses, Hamatzil nefesh achad kilu itzil ha'olam kulo. The person that saved one soul, it's like he saved the whole generation. You know what? It's really like that. So I saw what happens when people work together. Lives get saved. Very simple. He got equipment. I used the equipment. People went home. That's it. All the rest is commentary. That's what I want. The whole concept of trying to say, do the Israelis give? Do we give? And so everybody does. I want Jews outside of Israel to take active part with Israel.
For sure.
That is our strength. I'll say I mentioned Yudan Sharmon, and I guess most people here I have never met. So a few things to remember. Today, the IDF, which is one of the proud, strong points of Israel that makes us all strong, 40% of the combat troops come from Yudan Sharmon. Go to the officers' training academy and pick which minyan you want to daven in. This guy likes wine. And you know what one of his favorite wines is?
Shiloh wine.
Shiloh wine. Because all throughout Yudan Sharmon, there are wines now that are getting awards, international awards. Olive oil. There is a rebirth going on in Israel. The Jewish people are rising, and they're coming from the inside now. We've worked for years bringing Jews from outside, coming back into our land. We've fertilized the land, we've worked the land, and now it is producing. And it is producing something the world has not seen since Yeshua crossed over the Jordan. It now is witness to the strongest Jewish Zionist entity that the world has known since that time, and that is what scares the hell out of our enemies. And they know where it's coming from. And that's why they're putting us on the sites. And that is a good sign. So the movie Exodus?
That's when I became religious Zionist.
Okay, but imagine, and this is what I always like to say, Paul Newman is now wearing a kippah. Because that's what you have. And it's not that it's all just religious, it's not a religious thing. It's simply that this new Jew growing up there,
Strong.
not just strong, he's got an identity. It has nothing to do with his observance anymore. It has to do with he's complete. He's complete. And he appreciates who he is now. And he likes being in his land and strong. And you see it, and you come over and you call up and say, hey, where's that team? And you see these guys like this. And you say, of course. And that's an opportunity that we all have to take. That's the opportunity that I'm presenting here. To be Paul Newman.
What happens for the issue if tomorrow Netanyahu decides to make a separate state?
Probably the government will fall.
Civil war.
No, not yet. That's the one thing that, mind you, God forbid, we have to avoid. But he can't make that decision. And what's been happening more and more, mind you, more and more government officials, these Chavrei Knesset, the members of Knesset, you'd be surprised, and I was really surprised at how little a lot of these guys know. I mean, and they've even started now coming out to the Yishuvim because they are politicians and they want to get voted in. And there is a voice out in Yudan Shomron, and now they're looking to gain our voices. And they're coming out, and there are people who didn't even realize, people who were never in Shiloh from Israel. There's a lot of people, and they're coming out and they're saying, wait a second. And they start saying, why isn't this on our heritage list? It's our first capital. Slowly but surely, things are coming together. There's a mashal that sometimes I use. You ever see a tanker being turned around in a bay? It just doesn't spin around. There's a tugboat. A lot of tugboats. Little nudges, little pushes here and there, right? You can't really see it turning unless you get close. Then you see it's moving. That's what we're doing. We are turning things around. Slowly, every little push, every little thing, but it's happening.